This next session is called Designing Atmosphere, the Art of Visual Storytelling Through Hospitality AV. And with that, I'm going to pull on our next panelists so they can come on here. We have Chase McLeod, Creative Technologist at AVI-SPL, Todd Allinger, Consulting Services VP at CTI, and Dana McKellis, Director of Corporate Development at NanoLumens. Hi, guys. Welcome.
Hello. Great to be here.
Well, first things first, I would love for you each to kind of go around, talk about your experience in the industry a little bit, just so our audience can get to know you if they don't already. Chase, do you want to start?
Sure. My name is Chase McLeod, as Steph said. I live right outside of New Orleans, Louisiana, and I work with a group called XTG, Experience Technology Group. We are part of AVI-SPL integration, and we work specifically, I work as a creative technologist, is my title. I work in early creative concepting, early engineering ideas. At my heart, I'm kind of an artist, and a little bit of like art meets technology, my entire path of what I've learned. So luckily, I found a really great home here at XTG because we're built to kind of serve that market. So yeah, that's my part.
Perfect. Todd, what about you?
Hello, everyone. I'm Todd Allinger. I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm actually about 35 miles north and east of Atlanta. I work with CTI. I have been in the industry for about 40, a little over 40 years now. And so our focus has been really on helping the architects and that industry to kind of understand what we're doing with technology and how to better incorporate into their designs. We work really closely with architects, with corporate real estate accounts, and so forth. My team is somewhat unique to CTI, and that is our specific focus. And then we support our sales team, our design consultants, as well as our tech ops team, and with those designs, to make sure they're deployed as they should be. So that's me.
Dana, what about you?
Hi, Dana McKellis, NanoLumens, Director of Corporate Development. So that role gives me kind of a broad portfolio, which includes really being on point with our integrator partners and the design community at large to think about ways to creatively use and integrate LED technology into the built environment to create memorable experiential applications. I also oversee our international sales, and I'm on point with a couple of key organizations that we support, SEGD. I'm a local Atlanta chapter co-chair, and then GASP, which is formerly ABPM, the Executive Briefing Program Association.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys. So the first question I'm going to ask, I'm just going to toss it out, and whoever wants to take it first can. So I'm interested in how you each define atmosphere when it comes to AV design in a hospitality space.
Well, I guess it's just the overall sensory environment, combining the key pillars of visualization, what you see and what you hear, and focusing on those three elements to form really an approach designed to deliver an experience the way you want people to feel. It's all about how you want your guest or your customer to feel in this space.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Dana, too. My thoughts on that are that are all the elements that go into a space that create a feeling. If it's intentional, a lot of times it is intentional, sometimes it's not intentional, but anything that goes into a space that actually imparts or influences physical, emotional, biophysical kind of reactions from people, those create the atmosphere. Whether that's good or bad is like up for debate and all the part of the design process, but to me, those are all the elements that actually affect us when we walk into a space, whether we know it or not. It could be subconscious or very intentional and conscious.
It's so true. I mean, everything's being said. I mean, it's all about remembering something. It's all about how it resonates with us when we walk into a space. We all have a space that we've been to, and we walk and we're like, holy cow, this is really cool. And that's what we want people to say about what we do, what we provide in the space. There's oftentimes we get brought into a design team where the architect or the client will have this vision, and it's sometimes it's not as far reaching as it could be, and we like to bring that to the table and say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you looked at that? And with a little bit of planning, just about anything is possible. It just takes that planning to make sure the architecture's right and the budget's there to support it.
Absolutely. From your perspectives, what are the foundational elements that are needed in order to deliver this like cohesive experience that we talked about? This like, whether that's emotional or, to the senses or whatever, like what are those elements that are really, really needed there?
From my perspective, it's all about planning. I mean, that's really the biggest part of it, because if we are not involved with the right teams at the right time and having those conversations, I think Dana will appreciate this as well, because of Nanolumen's their approach. I mean, it's a lot about deploying this large scale display into an area where you're going to need extra power, you're going to need extra cooling. And so that's what we try to do, is we try to really educate our architects and what they want that vision to be and how to achieve that through the tools that we can provide them.
Yep. I'll piggyback on that too, Todd. It sounds like we probably think a lot of the same things with that. My response to that is that it starts with a strong design team that represents like the full spectrum of people that might be involved or affected or inhabit this space that you're going to create or that you're going to do something in. So that's kind of like, it sounds like what maybe Todd does, and we work with people like Dana all the time. Our XTG was created specifically to give the market a place where we could develop, design, and deliver things. And so we do that as a wing and a part of AVI-SPL. But without having early integrations to the design team or ideation, it does put things at risk later on in the process. So we advocate all the time. We work really closely with our network of partners who are creative agencies, and manufacturers, distributors, content creators, all these different facets that go into creating like a really phenomenal moment. We stay very close to them. We're a part of groups like SEGD and AVPM. So they're really, really important to understand who these spaces are being built for, why we're building them.
Mm-hmm. And if I could jump back in real quick, I apologize.
Oh, Todd.
You might have frozen him.
I think Todd's frozen.
Yeah, Dana, it seems like he's trying to come back. Here, Dana, did you want to give that a shot, and maybe we'll come back to Todd?
I think. Well, Todd. You were frozen there for a moment. And you were trying to say something. You want to go ahead?
Okay, my back. So what I was saying is that there oftentimes there's these leaders that have these dreams, but the dreams are actually supported by other people. And to Chase's point, having those people at the table at the right time to help understand what these dreams and visions are, help us be better equipped to support that. Oftentimes we're at a table where the right people aren't there, and we fall short of that expectation because we don't have that full vision. So having the right people at the table is critical.
I agree with these guys. You can go on.
So I am interested to hear that, like, kind of like leads me to this next question. Was kind of a perfect segue. When does AV ideally enter this design conversation, and like when do they typically enter this conversation, and like what's at risk when AV is brought in kind of like too late?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it's brought in, well, first of all, the obvious answer to the question is early.
Right.
You want to be in early, and what happens when AV is an afterthought is that it can be expensive and adds a lot more cost to the overall budget. And when it's brought in as an afterthought, it looks like an add-on as opposed to being integrated into the overall experience and one with the architecture. It's easy to hang a rectangle on a wall. If that's all you want to do, then I guess you can do that anytime. But there's so much more to be gained by having a thoughtful approach that can only be executed if it's at the outset of the plan.
Yep. Totally agree with you, Dana. I mean, I know, sounds like Todd and Dana, you work together. Myself and Dana, we've worked on plenty of opportunities where we've been at both stages of it. We've been very early. We've talked very wide concepts, and that in and of itself has its own challenges with trying to, craft, real world possibilities out of, very broad ideas. But that's what we do. And that's kind of the challenge we take on. It's how we get to really extraordinary builds in the end. But we've also been on the other side where it's been very late and it's very fast. And you're trying to get in. So there are a load of challenges. It's like I said, it's exactly why we're a part of groups like SEGD or ABPM or JHCP, is that they get us close to the people, they get us close to the ideas, they help us generate and influence ideas. And then when the time is ready, when there's an opportunity or there's something that needs to be kind of a thread that needs to be pulled at, people know where we are and they know that we exist and they know that we're here to help. And so we were created for that. We try to take things, when you go into a space, I know we've all been to a space probably once that's had us looking up at something. It could be a house or anything. You're like, why would they do it like that? Why would it be? I would do it differently than them.
Yeah.
Sometimes the reason for that is because there were constraints that were beyond their control and they ended up with that, or they made some bad decisions along the way, or they didn't meet the right people or inform the design enough as it went along. So we try really hard to go from why would they do it that way to like, wow, how did they do that? And that's like the gap between that can be very much living in making sure people know you exist and that you can help, and that there is a part of the AV industry that thinks about the same things that an architect or a designer or anyone else who, an artist who's creating a sculpture or something, we think about the same things. How's it going to make someone feel? How will they interact with it? How will it impact people? And those are important questions to ask from the AV perspective early on.
Absolutely. Todd, did you want to add to that?
I think it's been pretty well said. The only thing that I will say, and this is kind of on the other side of it, is that we've also been brought to the table where there was a vision, okay, but we were late in that. And they had acquired all the money they needed, okay, they had the vision, they had the right people at the table, they were just too late. And so in this case, the core and shell was built as one design and the tenant build out was built separately. And they simply didn't provide the amount of power and cooling. This is, of course, Dan, this is going to be a display experience for the environment to support it. So we're talking multi-million-dollar opportunity that simply ended up as a flat panel display on a wall, which is sad for us because we saw all the motivation, we saw the passion, saw the willing to finance it, and they just didn't have the right building. So it's all about planning. Planning's so important.
Absolutely. So Chase and Todd, I'm interested in your answers to this. How do you balance creative vision with technical constraints in like a hospitality environment, or really any environment? I feel like this could be an answer too.
Yeah, it really can be. It is always, we're always looking for balance in everything that we're doing. And I think that Todd just said it a second ago, it starts with a vision and a why. It starts with what are we building? Why are we building it? Why do we need this thing at all? When that exists, I think when there really is like a true vision and something that you all believe in, it could be a corporate, it could be to get your brand message out. It could be to make a bunch of children feel really safe in a space that doesn't feel safe to them. So the reason could be a lot of different things, but if there is that reason, it's usually the ability to evolve and adapt through a design process kind of always exists. That's our job, right? Where our job is to kind of help push and bend and say, oh, maybe we do it this way, maybe we do it that way. No, you can't stick projectors there. No, you can't put a display there. It's too heavy. It doesn't mean no, it just means how and how different. So that's a part of it. And, technical and then budgetary constraints are always things that completely, change things. But again, like I said, if there's a core vision, that to me, it can exist through a lot of different variations and we can find something that's a balance. That's typically what happens.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I can add too much to that. I mean, the only thing I want to add is that, in our industry and our technology has evolved so much through the years that it's allowed us to really take just about any vision that anybody can come up with nowadays and really come up with a solution that fulfills that, what they're trying to do. Anything from, this kind of goes in direct view LED kind of arena, but a gymnasium floor, okay, that is basically a direct view LED display that they can reconfigure based on what they want that space to be. These are all things that are possible that, 10 years ago were just, nonsense to even talk about. So it's really cool to see how our industry has adapted to all these new, more vigorous requirements of what we're trying to do from a creativity standpoint.
Yeah. So this one's for each of you again. I'm interested to see what trends you're all seeing and how AV is being used to support branding, to support storytelling in the hospitality space.
Well, I would say there are several using different technologies. Um, let's start with audio. Having um, beam-based custom audio experiences. Creating soundscapes in a given area. Um, having lighting where you see an image on a large screen, but guess what? There's a shadow from the person in that image on the floor in front of that display that adds a three-dimensional element to the experience. And then with this technology of LED, you know, it's got so many advantages of being low maintenance and long life and modular. But if you really think about it as a flexible, dynamic building material that you can use in any size, shape, or curvature to show public art, to show um, various elements that help create the mood that's being brought about also by that lighting and audio technology. You know, these are trends that are going way beyond hanging a screen on a wall, like we mentioned before.
Yep. Yeah, that's how I was gonna say, Dana. Like the ability to curve LED in compound, convex curves, compound curves, custom shaped LED modules that are like the advancements in the ability to actually curve and make really fine pixel pitch LED. That trend is like one of the highest ones because it means we can wrap things that we couldn't wrap before in LED, or we can activate something at a really high resolution that you couldn't do before with that type of product. The same thing goes for like transparent technology. Obviously, nanolumens, transparent LED, wrapping out exterior buildings, windows, and being able to see through but activate different pieces of content, and then transparent glass displays like transparent LCDs and OLED. All of that, like I think, seeing those are trends that we're definitely seeing in public, more lobby spaces, the hospitality industry for sure. If you're in a hotel or something, or a really high end lobby, the use of that kind of technology, and even like some of the things from the art media and their capsule box doing the depth display with the transparent display and having like a holographic image of somebody at full height. That's a huge trend because we're now able to kind of create this more realistic feeling, closer to a hologram than you ever have been before. So that's definitely the trends I'm seeing.
And the other thing is a two-letter acronym that is the 10,000-pound gorilla in the room that we haven't talked about yet, and that's AI.
Yeah.
AI with not only displays, but just in a room with the experience. How can we identify who is that person that's coming up to interact with this technology? What is their background? There's just so much we can do with that, and we're just at the tip of the iceberg on that. And to me, it's a little bit scary simply because I'm, the older guy in the room, but it's really intriguing to see where we've been and where we can go just with that one step right there. So I'm very anxious to see what happens with that.
Absolutely. I was wondering if you guys each have like, a project in your mind that maybe AV helped transform the guest experience. If you don't, that's okay, but I'm interested, and I know our audience would be interested in hearing, like, if y'all have a particular case in mind.
I've got a couple.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
They're both in Las Vegas. That's why I'm thinking of two.
Yeah.
Because they're both in clubs. So one that we did a few years ago was at the Palms in the Chaos nightclub, and as you enter the space, there's a ceiling that's the Galaxy foyer, and it's all LED showing the galaxies, and you look up and it's just infinite. And then you walk up some stairs and you go into the club space, and it's really large, and there's a big DJ platform in the middle, but there's a compound halo curve around the entire space, and he controls the content on that and when it comes on in sync with what he's doing with audio, and it really creates that amazing immersive experience. And then the other is more recent at the Fontainebleau Club, and that includes some of the same things I just mentioned, but also a kinetic display that comes down from the ceiling, changes shapes, and rotates, and it's all in sequence with what they're trying to create in a mood with.
Hmm.
Nice. I was going to tack onto that too. Just staying in Las Vegas, I guess.
Yeah.
District's Arte Museum was one that XTG and AVI-XPL have had the pleasure of working on with District closely. And so if you guys have ever been to it, obviously completely transforms the space, right? It's complete projection mapped, immersive projection. It's not just the use of projection, it's projection also used at scale. There's really high ceilings, really high walls, big flat surfaces, really big, broad, expansive imagery that is waterfalls, things that playing with sound and reflection, some of the practical effects that happen in there, as well as the dispersed audio that we have, I think really kind of turn, a box space into something that's a really kind of memorable experience. So that's one that I personally got to work on with AVI-XPL and XTG that I think really highlights that.
It's really cool.
Todd, do you have one off the top of your head?
No, not off the top of my head. I'm just thinking because a lot of the work that I'm thinking more of this, several years ago, and I'm not coming up with anything that can meet what Dana or Chase talked about. So I'm okay.
No, that's all right. So I'm interested if any of you kind of have an AV element that each of you think often gets overlooked when it comes to hospitality design.
I would defer to these guys because they're the ones that are designing in multiple elements. But just, my guess would be audio because it's invisible and it's, I think, more often than not, likely to be an afterthought. But I defer to these two guys.
My thought.
Okay, I was going to say I'm going to absolutely agree with that. I've been into many, venues where the displays are great, and they thought a lot about how everything looks. When it comes to the quality of the audio, they just fall very short. And we've been working with one client for years, and our goal there is to really help them understand the importance, not only for just the audible experience of the person in the room, but being able to hear whether it's paging or announcements or anything like that. Just because you hear it doesn't mean that you can actually understand it. And so that's been some of our focus. It's not as sexy as some of the stuff we're talking about right now, but definitely in the category of how we're trying to make those experiences better for the people that are in that space.
Yeah, my response to it is a little more tongue in cheek, and it's fun. My answer is fun. Like, I think that one of the things I try to kind of keep at the core of what I do and why I kind of enjoy working in this space and really enjoy working with XTG is that there's an opportunity to kind of reintroduce and allow ourselves to know that there's a chance to play and have fun with things, and that even if we're talking about something that might be a really stuffy topic or something that might be a little, who cares what the topic is, there's a chance to make it fun, inviting, engaging. And I think that's really relevant to hospitality because that's the entire goal of hospitality. I'm from New Orleans, so obviously hospitality runs in our blood. I've worked live events for years. I worked at every hotel and convention center that exists out here. And I kind of, I love AV because I do help people when I work in AV. So now I get to design things that are really impactful for other people that are not a part of the direct use of AV. So I think it's a chance to just have fun with it. I think there's a chance to have fun with a lot of things that we're just not doing already.
No, those are good answers. And I'm interested also to know what role flexibility plays for you when a space is serving multiple functions throughout the day, as often a hospitality space does. Like sometimes it's the lobby, but also sometimes it's the bar at night, but also sometimes it's a lounge area. I'm interested to kind of hear your opinions on what that means to design when it's a space that's meant to be flexible.
From my perspective, I think that's where we bring a lot to the table, because when we're talking to our clients, they're talking about visions. They're pretty much looking at it kind of through a kind of a single mono vision. They're looking at specific to the experience they're looking for, but that's where we can say, well, have you thought about this? Have you, we can have this display element, and we could add interactivity to it to bring a different level, level of depth to that experience for your clients. it's not as I think the flexibility works on both sides. Okay, we need our clients to be flexible with their thoughts, but at the same time, we need to be flexible in our approach. Because if we combine those two, I think that makes us really a good resource to our clients, to the design team. Because not only when I say, think about a different approach, it could be a different approach with what we're doing with air, with heating and cooling, with lighting, with window treatments. There's a lot of different aspects that we can look at to say, how can we make this experience better?
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm also interested if, like, what's one insight you would each share with a venue that wants to level up, like, their atmosphere with using AV technology? Like, what is a piece of advice that you'd kind of start with and give?
I'll start that. I think mine would probably be that it's okay to pull the threads at the beginning of a conversation when you're looking at changing your space or leveling up or doing something. There's a lot of obvious things that can be done. Again, anybody will tell you when we do this, like, there are so many ways you can do the same thing in AV. You can use so many different displays and so many different speakers to kind of achieve the same effect sometimes. So there's a lot of things you could do. A lot of times people will say, well, just do this, just do that. And those could be really effective, and you could really, it could be fine. It could be just fine. But if you have a desire to do something impactful, then, reach out to people and reach out to teams and actually engage, spend maybe a little more time on the front end, developing the why, developing the vision, storyboarding, or coming up with something that really makes sense for what you're about to do. And that typically ends up uncovering things you hadn't thought of before that you may not have thought of, and or just evolving the design a lot faster and saying that maybe we should or shouldn't do this because of this reason. So it's really just don't settle for like what the easy answer might be. Push a little harder, and the answer might be somewhere in the middle of that. It might be back to where you started, but it's better to spend a little time in the beginning actually engaging people that are going to help you think creatively, versus like wishing later on that it was a little bit more than what it was. Maybe that's the best thing I can say.
I would certainly agree with all of that, and I would just say as succinctly as possible, don't start with the equipment, start with the experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How do you want people to feel in each area of your space, and align that as best you can with your brand strategy. But it's like Maya Angelou said, people remember how they feel, not what they heard or what they saw.
So true.
It's true. And the only thing that I can really add to that is planning, having the right people, flexibility in your thoughts, to explain your visions clearly, and to, and this is going to sound a little bit kind of strange, but your design team, your architects, oftentimes they're looking for the most straightforward path to their goals, right? And our job, and they expect this to be our job, is to be somewhat of a disruptor of that, okay? To challenge them on how things can be done differently using technology. So we are moving that design beyond the original, the original vision to something that's higher than that, and something that's going to be, it will resonate with people more. To going back to what Dana just said, I mean, what do we remember? Okay, after that experience, what really resonated with, what stuck with me after I left, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of like another last kind of forward-thinking question about what we're seeing right now in terms of like the hospitality environment. Is there a technology that you're each kind of personally excited about, even if it hasn't taken off yet in the hospitality space yet, but something that's like still emerging, kind of on the forefront, something that maybe you're excited to see more of in the future?
It's a great question.
My easy answer is AI. I think AI is going to change a lot for us, whether it's at a room level, a lobby level, a kiosk level. There's just so much we can do with that, so much that can be done. But it's really about sharing personal information and trying to get beyond what that means, because of there's a lot of concern about that. But yeah, AI is definitely one of those areas, and then quickly followed from my perspective, display technology.
Yeah, same thing. I think AI is a great point. I wasn't even going there. I'm the same as you, Todd. AI is it's a huge conversation piece, obviously, and it's always discussed. It's something that's been kind of not at the forefront of my thought process a lot because I'm a creative mind, and so sometimes I don't want to lean on AI to do. I don't lean on AI to generate creative ideas. That's a human thing. So it's having an understanding where AI's position is in that it will change a lot. It changed already on like a low hanging fruit for wayfinding in a lobby or wayfinding through a large building using AI or interactive avatars on display technology helps people find their way in a large space a lot easier than they would following static signs. So there's that, but also more practically, I'd say transparent displays for me. Transparent display technology is the emerging thing that I think is a lot of really cool applications, not just in hospitality. I see taking off in retail really big. Obviously, there's a really cool ways to activate content in three-dimensional ways on top of physical items. We use that same effect in corporate projects as well. There's a lot of storytelling that can be done with physical objects. That physical digital merge and just transparent displays, I think, kind of open the door to creating that next level layer of playfulness with that, and not just in a small scale, but in a large window scale too as it gets there.
I'm glad that Chase mentioned that because we will actually have it on display at the Nanolumens booth at Infocom. We recently announced a strategic partnership with AUO Display Plus, which is a real leader in this space, and they have some groundbreaking, incredible technology that you really have to see to believe, and that will be at the Nanolumens booth. So please stop by and see it.
Perfect. Love that. So the actual last question I'm going to ask each of you is to go around and say where people can, connect with you online and also, find out more information about the work that you do at your respective companies. So Chase, you want to go first?
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn, posting really goofy stuff sometimes. So find me there, search Chase McLeod. I'll be the guy in overalls, probably in a beanie in my photo. You can see me at Infocom. I will be at the AVISPL booth. XDG will have a presence there. Would love to meet anybody who was on this and maybe was interested. Come talk to me, say hello. And then, avispl.com/XDG. You can go to our page and find out some of the really cool stuff that we're doing and working on.
Perfect. Todd, what about you?
For me, LinkedIn, absolutely. Todd Allinger, I'm there. Also, emails todd.allinger@cti.com. We too will be at CTI. We'll be loud and proud. We'll be wearing our team shirts, so you'll see a crowd of us going from booth to booth. I look super forward to that and being part of that team. CTI will also have our booth there. And also, CTI will be hosting Tech on Tap. If anybody's interested in that, please connect with me at my email address. That's todd.allinger@cti.com. And I will see what I can do to get you hooked up. It should be a fun time each night of Infocom. Thank you.
Last but not least, Dana.
Well, we'll be in booth number 3081, conducting interviews with rAVe and meeting with customers. I'm on LinkedIn, of course. It's my first initial and last name at nanolumens.com, and look forward to engaging with anyone who might have an interest. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for being part of this panel. I know our audience has appreciated it, and I am very appreciative also of your time. So thank you guys, and I hope to see you all at Infocom.